Welcome to Jurassic World.
Guests, welcome to the Jurassic World Minute, where we visit Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. We do hope you enjoy your stay on Isla Nublar. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to discuss Minute 6 of Jurassic World. Before we get to that, David, jumping over to Jurassic-Pedia.com, we mentioned it last minute, but we have the ferry terminal, or ferry disembarking area, harbour, whatever you want to call it.
Dock.
Dock, that's what, yeah, that'll do too. As seen in this section of the film, we assume this is the same area in the south of the island that's mentioned later, where the cruise ships are going to be coming to pick up the guests to leave the island. Unfortunately, we don't see that. Yeah, but a good little write-up here by Sickle Claw on the ferry landing.
Well, yeah, this was actually, I think, one of the Oahu filming locations, and so this was one of those locations that they set up on, I think, some dock in Honolulu or something like that, and basically filmed everybody disembarking and with a bunch of flags and stuff.
Yeah, I do remember from marketing that, sort of leading into a lot of behind the stuff that was coming out for Jurassic World, was them pretty much taking those Isla Nublar and Jurassic World flags and planting them all over the place. On the dock here, later when we see him sort of leaving the dock and going up to the monorail. Plus there's a lot of the other areas, the marina, or the marine animal area and all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, for that little write-up on the ferry landing and other stuff for Jurassic World, head over to Jurassic-Pedia.com.
I'm so jealous. You're going to have so much fun. I love you. Love you too.
Alright, Dave, ready to get into Minute 6?
Yeah.
As we enter Minute 5 of Jurassic World, the Isla Nublar ferry had docked at the island, and all the guests were disembarking at the ferry terminal. As we open on Minute 6, a recorded voice says, "Welcome to Jurassic World, and we hope you enjoy your stay here." Gray and Zach walk amongst the tourists, and notice a woman holding an iPad with their names on it. Gray asks, "Where's Aunt Claire?" At the 12-second mark, the boys walk up to the woman as the camera pans up to reveal a mighty fine-looking monorail station. At the 23-second mark, we cut inside the monorail as Jurassic Park theme begins to play. Zach's got his feet on the seats, and behind him Zara is reading Dr. Ian Malcolm's book. At the 33-second mark, after the mention of the Jurassic World main gates, Gray gets up and runs to the front of the train. A recording says they were reclaimed from the original park over 20 years ago. At the 41-second mark, the gates open as the monorail passes through into Jurassic World. At the 45-second mark, we're at the Isla Nublar Hilton as Gray runs from the monorail and through the front doors, amazed by what he can see. As Zach and Zara catch up, she tells Zach that her aunt agreed to meet him at 1 o'clock, and if Gray can slow down. They continue forward into the Hilton, and he says, "Nope." And as the minute ends, Gray's riding the escalator up to the second floor, yelling back at them, "Come on!"
Scene 1 here, we get a continuation from last minute with everyone disembarking the ferry, and we get the recorded message continuing, "We hope you have a safe and enjoyable stay with us."
Little did they know.
Yes. Yep. As recording is playing, we see Gray and Zach stop while the rest of the guests continue on, and we get a shot from their POV as a woman wearing large black sunglasses standing there a little ahead of them, with what I thought was like a little chalkboard or something with their names on it or a sign, but it's actually a tablet with Zach and Gray's name on it. Mentioned in the novelisation there that it's a tablet.
Oh, that's fancy.
Yeah.
I always thought it was like a sign. It was like one of those pushpin signs where you just put the letters in, like, or even a chalkboard or something like you see people who pick people up from the airport having.
Yeah, I'd assume, and we'll get to it later when they're doing the tour of the VIPs, but I don't think they would be coming via ferry, so it's probably, I don't know how many times Zara or anyone else would be at the ferry waiting for people to turn up, unless there are more higher paid guests still coming by ferry.
Well, they are supposed to be preferred customers, I suppose, because remember Claire gets them the those Uber VIP passes that get them fast pass to all the rides and everything.
Well, that's Claire's gone and done all that for the boys, got them there, and probably paid their tickets to go there and everything else, but still had them come cattle class with everyone else, and not by helicopter.
No, only the CEO gets to come by helicopter.
Well, he's flying it, so that helps as well. But Gray looked disappointed and asks where's Aunt Claire, and without any words they continue forward with the crowd and stop in front of the woman as we sort of pan up and get a fantastic look at that monorail station up on the cliffs and the massive line of tourists sort of snaking their way right up to the dock, from the dock up to it where the boys are, and there's a lot more people here than would have been on that ferry. You can only assume there's probably a second ferry that's just unloaded or something for the morning guests arriving on the island, because there's hundreds of people here. But that's when we cut the scene to inside the monorail itself, and we get that Jurassic theme start to play here. As the monorail's moving along, Zach's got his feet up on the seat in front of him, typical teenager, and both kids are sort of sitting together, and Zara's on the chair behind him. And we get our first Dr. Malcolm book that I've never I never noticed in the film. A lot of the time I watch this on my iPad, so resolution size and that, you don't really see Malcolm's head on the back of the book there. But
yeah, it is honestly a very blink and you miss it thing, you know. And I think it's Zara reading it, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's sort of weird how she's holding up between Zach and Gray's head as well. It's like clearly trying to show or have a look at this book. But then on the moving monorail too, if you got the book down your lap, you might be more inclined to be car sick or something from the movement. At least if it's up like this, you're sort of up looking up and seeing the vegetation that flash by out of the corner of your eye anyway. But it also looks like one of the production or character shots from The Lost World too.
It does, doesn't it?
Which I thought was interesting. You'd think that. Well, I suppose we don't really get a lot of info on that book. It must be something released just post The Lost World. What's the title? It's God Creates Dinosaurs or something, the title, isn't it?
I thought it was Edge of Chaos or something like that. I don't know.
I probably should have looked into it more. Luckily, the internet's at our fingertips.
It is God Creates Dinosaurs, yes.
Yep. So you only assume that sort of come out in the following year after the San Diego incident, and that's why we got the Malcolm looking as he does there, and not what he does next film.
Yeah, and I mean, even looking at some of the images of it online here, you can clearly tell that it's. I mean, he's even wearing the costuming that he wore in The Lost World. It's clearly a shot that they had done they had took during the promotion for the film back in 1997, and they just took it on the back of the cover here.
And probably just removed the Velociraptor that was beside him.
Yeah. Or even cropped it out.
Yeah. But we get an announcement over the PA. For those of you in the front of the train, you should be able to see our main gates built with reclaimed wood from the original park over 20 years ago. So obviously this sort of shows that people know about the original Jurassic Park at least in some parts. We're going to get with what we get with Lowry later, but the general community seems to know that Jurassic Park was at least a thing originally.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing is that we know that he probably covered a lot of it in his book, was that Ian Malcolm went public after the incident in Jurassic Park when he discovered the engine was trying to cover up the deaths.
Yeah, yep. Which again, if Jurassic Park's out there, knowledge how they even get allowed to rebuild, they must have had some good safety people and insurance company that wanted to back them.
Well, I think that's actually covered in, I think, one of the DGP, Dino Protection Group, history files where they discovered that Masrani had been basically bribing and lobbying Congress to relax restrictions on dinosaur cloning, and eventually was able to get the entire Gene Guard Act basically nullified so that they could build the island here.
Yes. Yep. And supposedly go back to experimenting on sauna.
Yeah.
But after the announcement, Gray's he was sort of making his way to the front of the train as we cut outside to see those main gates opening and the monorail go through it. One of the big trailer scenes, one of the big teaser scenes, and one that I really love to see come back for the Fallen Kingdom teasers with the monorail laying in complete destruction and these gates destroyed as well.
Yeah. The interesting thing, though, is that it actually makes the same sound as the gates opening from the first movie.
I'd love to know what sort of reclaimed timber after 30 or 25 years in the tropics would be reused here. Okay, if the big gates were hardwood and stained and all that sort of stuff, then there might be some materials here, but it's not the same. They're a lot smaller than what those gates were. I question their placement here as the visitors entering the sort of visitor compound and not so much the park where the animals are, even though sort of the park's more integrated with visitor facilities, unlike Jurassic Park where visitor centre and compound were here and then you go out into the park and that's where you got the gates. It'd be like the gates being after you got off the helicopter in Jurassic Park, those perimeter gates.
Well, I believe that the gates themselves here are, I think that what they reclaimed was, well, another thing to remember is that it's not 25 years later when the park originally opened. It was more like, I think, 10 or 15 years later. And even then, there was, I think that they, remember in The Lost World, it says that they deconstructed it, so InGen probably had them, like, in storage or something, in some warehouse.
Yep.
And so they probably just pulled them out, gave them a fresh coat of paint, and stuck them on a new set of hinges. And I wouldn't say the doors are really that more undersized. I'd say they're about the same size, in fact. It's just that I think that it looks like they kind of recarved the top there, so they're not the same shape, you know?
Yeah, well, I think the other thing I'm not mentioning here too is the fact that the monorail's up off the ground, not down where the explorers were.
True, yeah.
So, and you know, the perspective here, you're only sort of looking from that trackway up where there's probably a good 5 or 10 metres below the trackway of gate as well, and they've just cut the grooves in the gates for the trackway to go through.
Yeah. I believe that the shot was actually meant to be practical in the original movie, or in the movie originally, but they decided to change it to a CGI shot because they didn't like how it looked, I guess.
That was going to be the next thing. I remember when the teaser came out, and a lot of fans had issues with the fact that the gates looked very CG, and the one thing you'd think they'd spend money on some sort of practical effect would be the gates. And then we did see that image later, which looked like a miniature, didn't it? It was
what Peter Jackson would call a bigature, because
it's
like 10 feet tall. It's not life size, but it's not small either.
They're not Lego gates.
Yeah.
But as you said, originally they shot it practically, but didn't like the way it looked, so it went digitally, and a lot of fans didn't like that when the teaser came out. But I think it's all water under the bridge now. And that's where we cut to scene 3, Hotel Hilton. We cut to Gray running through a crowd of people, then onto the or into the lobby of the Isla Nublar Hilton, or the Hawaiian Convention or Exhibition Centre, or the Sydney Airport from Lost. A lot of local filming. I'm sure Hawaii Five-0 has used this set as well. I don't. It's not RoboCop. I know a couple. Might be Total Recall. There's some of those 80s films that wanted shots of the future. It might even be Demolition Man. It reused it as well because this is a very futuristic looking building with the pipework and glass.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know that was it Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yep.
I do know that one used a hotel lobby for like the lobby or whatever it is, but those futury looking escalators. But I don't know if it was this one or not.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't think it was this one actually, because it was more concrete and all that. This is more glass and steel.
Yeah, I'm sure Real Tours have a long list over on their Facebook page or something with what else it's being used in. But we get that Jurassic tune continue to play in the background here as well, and we get a recording in the lobby about guests' attire. Shirts and shoes must be worn at all times.
I can't just go to the pool with all my fat folds hanging out?
Well, you mustn't access that through the lobby. You probably come down the lifts and go out the back somewhere to access the pool and the gym and everything else. But
it's just that it's a very American style thing to have you have the rooms and then you have to go through the lobby to get to the pool area. Yeah. I didn't know that's kind of the main layout in most hotels in America.
Well, again, it's hot there too, like in the tropics. You'd think Hawaiian shirts, flip-flops, all that sort of thing, but it's sort of odd here too. So looking at the ferry dock and now the hotel, just the vast amount of people that are coming into this place. Like, you can only imagine guest services and reception, how long the lines are here when people start coming in to check in.
Mm-hmm. Especially during the summer season, which I'm sure is very busy. Yeah,
and it's sort of, again, it's a lot of the running of Jurassic World that we don't really see a lot of. We know there's about 22,000 people there at the moment. How many of them are coming and going daily? How many are staying for 2 to 3 days? How many there have been for a month?
I'm sure they have a busier season. Like, I know Florida and California and all those kind of more tourist destinations, Bahamas, Cancun, Mexico, stuff like that, have a summer season where people who don't have kids at school are able to take vacations that are like 2-week long vacations and just beach bum, you know?
Yeah. Well, you'd imagine school holidays would be massive as well.
Yeah. Yeah, spring break would probably be another big one.
Yeah, yep.
Yep. Ooh, I'm going to see Spring Break Jurassic World.
Well, we get it next minute when they fly it over the park and you see the beaches there. You just imagine them being full.
Full fucking college teenagers.
Even with the fences there to keep you between you and the mosasaur, I don't know how safe I'd feel swimming in the same water as that thing.
Drunk and ride the mosasaur.
Oh.
Can you imagine? I'm sure that happened. I'm sure that happened. It's just one of those things. I mean, you just know how people are, and you know that little fence isn't going to keep people out.
The petting zoo. There's people trying to break into the petting zoo at night time and riding a
triceratops.
Yeah. That's why ACU's no good at bloody keeping animals under containment. They're too busy keeping guests under containment.
Well, they are the animals they're keeping under containment.
Yeah.
They don't have to. The fences aren't there to keep the people safe. The fences are there to keep the animals safe from the people.
Yeah. But also too, as they're in the lobby here, you can see I never realised before, but out the doors to the lobby, you can see the CGI'd monorail park there. So the monorail brings you directly from the ferry to the Hilton.
Yeah, I never realized that before either, and I just noticed that going by the frame by frame here. In fact, you can see in that first shot with Gray running through the crowd, you can see mountains behind him and all the guests there. As he runs out of the monorail and into the lobby.
Yeah, I think the way it's sort of located here behind them, beyond the monorail, is the lagoon, and that those mountains are the mountains that are behind the Innovation Centre. Over there, it's sort of it's tough to work out the geography of this place when it's all backplates and CGI. Yeah. We'll get to that more when we get the overhead. As Zara and Zach follow Gray into the lobby, she tells Zach their aunt arranged to meet them at 1 o'clock, and then asks him if Gray can slow down. Also notice the British accent here, so of course the nanny vibe, or is she the nanny?
I think Clara brings it up with Karen later. She says, well, she's British, so they invent a nanny.
Is that racist or just insult? I don't know. It's probably a lesser form of racism.
It's anti-national, or no, it wouldn't be nationalist, because nationalist is pride, is like extreme pride for your own country. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Ignorant?
Probably. Probably best we don't look into it too far. But as the minute ends, we get a shot, the first part of Gray on the escalator, waving his hands, yelling, "Come on!" Very excited to be here, and very excited to get to his room. I'm also noticing that as I'm going by the frame by frame, as Gray runs off, you can see behind him there's above the exit a sign for Jurassic Tennis, which, if you recall, there was a advertisement for Jurassic Tennis in the first movie during the slideshow, on the slides during the lunch scene. Yeah, and from memory from the book, there were tennis courts and that with the lodge, the visitor lodge and that there as well. Yeah.
Also on Isla Sorna as well, where the Carnotaurus famously made their home on the tennis court.
Still need to see that in film.
Yeah.
If you sat and have a look at this main lobby, there's signs everywhere. Like you can see the reception down past, or it might be next minute you get a shot past Gray as he's riding the escalator, and you can see down to a reception desk, and there's pretty much there's TVs and banners here everywhere with different activities.
Yeah.
As you would see in a motel lobby, hotel lobby. Going over to novel comparisons, a little bit of catch up here from minute 5 because I didn't have anything written down last minute. Novel describes hours after they leave the Dane County Airport, the planned lanes in Costa Rica. No mention of connecting flights or the airport they land in, but there's convenient signs directing them to the ferry to Isla Nublar, so it has to be some sort of coastal airport where you can leave the airport and walk across the street, and the ferries sit there waiting.
I recall last minute us looking up the airport there and seeing it to be another landlocked city that seemed to have been either moved to the coast.
Yep. That all adds to the transportation issues to Isla Nublar, but we have the island weight question is still there. However, Gray talking about the animals on the island isn't. It's the fact that he's bouncing around with excitement that makes Zach move away from him when the girls are looking up at him. We also get an introduction to the island. In the distance, the island rose out of the sea. It had mountains that looked like they might have once been volcanoes, and it was green, covered in dense jungle, where we know from Kauai that the mountains aren't covered in jungle, they're just green because of the grasses and that grow on them. The jungle's down on the floor, but...
Interesting still, though, because that seems more like the description of the exhibition when you go on the quote-unquote fair.